This might be a weird thing to admit as an adult, but I don't feel like I was ever smarter than when I was in school and it was my job to learn, and I accomplished that mostly by writing stuff down by hand. I am definitely one of those people who only really stores and processes information if there's like a physical action that goes with it. In my case, that was writing, because typing in class was a thing in college, but definitely not in high school. So I've really kind of formed my learning behaviors around that mechanical action. And since I don't do that so much anymore, I honestly feel a little bit dumber for it, which is why devices like the reMarkable have seemed so interesting. Now, if you're not familiar, the original reMarkable was an e-ink tablet developed so that people who, like me, and like business leaders, I guess, who would prefer to write stuff down and annotate stuff on a tablet, had something to work with. But because it's e-ink, it had something approaching the feel of writing on paper with a pen. And that was honestly huge for quite a few people who didn't know they needed this device until this device existed. Now, as appealing as that original hardware was, it definitely wasn't perfect. For one, it had a plastic body, which I guess was fine for the time, but the stuff inside was a little more concerning to me, at least. As someone trying to use it, the fact that we only had 512 megs of RAM and a single core 1 gigahertz processor really kind of let things down. For the past week or so, I've been living with the reMarkable 2, which in terms of hardware is clearly superior to the original in every single way. Not only is it beautiful, it packs updated internals and a really nice new marker, which we'll get to in a little bit. The experience is maybe not as groundbreaking as the original reMarkable was, but there are a lot of really important updates here. Now, before we get into what I did and didn't like about the reMarkable 2, I just need to be clear up front. This is a pre-production version of the tablet itself, so the people who have already spent $399 or are considering buying one of these things for $399 will get a slightly different experience than what I've had so far. So if you want to know more about what this thing is like to live with closer to the launch date, please let us know down in the comments or via email. But in the meantime, this is something of a snapshot of where the reMarkable 2 is right now. So let's talk about the hardware. And right up front, I cannot overstate just how much better this new design feels compared to the original. The evolution of the reMarkable 1 to the reMarkable 2 honestly feels quite a bit like Amazon's Kindles evolving over time. We had soft, friendly, white plastic designs up first, eventually leading the way to really sleek, beautiful, minimalist designs like the reMarkable 2. Now, the size of the screen itself hasn't changed. Both versions of the reMarkable have a 10.3-inch canvas e-ink display, but the stuff around the display in the reMarkable 2 is hugely different. That's because we're looking at an aluminum build instead of that plastic we got in the reMarkable 1. That gives it an extra sense of sturdiness that also allowed reMarkable to make this what they claim is the world's thinnest tablet. Now, the physical controls that we got in the reMarkable 1 are largely gone here. There is exactly one button on the reMarkable 2. It's on top that you use to put the thing to sleep and wake it up again, but other than that, you're looking at a primarily touch interface. I should also point out that instead of the micro USB port that we got on the original reMarkable, we finally have USB-C, which it's just a nice thing to see in 2020. I mean, everyone has already kind of adopted the standard with a couple notable standouts, which I will continue to judge, but I'm glad that they've jumped on the bandwagon here. It really just makes it easier to charge this thing with one cable that you use for all of your other stuff too. Really though, it's the stuff inside that should make the most difference. Emphasis on the word should. You're getting the same 8 gigabytes of storage from the reMarkable 1 in the reMarkable 2, but the newer model has double the RAM. It has 1 gigabyte of RAM, which should help keep system tasks running more smoothly, and so should the dual-core 1.2 gigahertz processor, which by all accounts should be a huge improvement over what we got in the original. And I have to say, in terms of day-to-day performance, I don't really see a huge difference. Sure, there are some tasks that happen faster. If you load an ebook onto these devices, you will see that switching the fonts and the line spacing and the alignment and the justification, all of those little things happen marginally faster on the reMarkable 2 than they did on the original hardware. And the same feels generally true when you're working with PDFs. In general, in situations where you see art or diagrams. In addition to plain text in a PDF, that actually loads and aligns itself correctly, slightly faster on the reMarkable 2. But again, I'm not seeing a quantum leap in performance, which is again a little weird because we're going from a single core to a dual core and slightly higher clock speeds and double the RAM. Like, it should be better than this, and it may well be better than this in use cases that I haven't really tried out yet. What I have noticed is that the very act of writing on the reMarkable 2 is quite a bit better. That is for a few reasons. One, reMarkable has developed a new kind of screen coating for the reMarkable 2 that they say makes this display feel more like paper when you use the pen. I should also point out that with this generation canvas display and the marker, you're getting 4,096 levels of pressure, which is twice what you'd get out of the reMarkable 1. That, again, is one of those things I'm not sure a lot of people are going to see the value of immediately. Artists will almost certainly see a change because you are able to, for example, get a pencil and sort of really get fine-grained, light, wispy marks on a reMarkable 2 that take a little bit more effort to get just right on the reMarkable 1. But in day-to-day use, again, I'm not sure that you're going to see the difference. And much like the Galaxy Note 20 this year, which has seen significant improvements to pen latency, those improvements are kind of happening on this front too. We're looking at a latency of about 21 milliseconds on the reMarkable 2, which is quite a bit lower than what we got previously. I think the original reMarkable tablet it started out at like 51 milliseconds, then they eventually got it down to 40 via software updates, but 40 to 21 is still a pretty big deal. And again, if you're an artist, you'll see that as you make big sweeping strokes along the display. The amount of gap between the stroke itself and your pen tip is about half. But if you're more like me and you mostly deal with quick, short, punctuated strokes when you're just trying to get notes down in the middle of a meeting or a conversation, then that value might not be immediately apparent. To reMarkable's credit, for now at least, the plan is to make sure that there is no feature gap between the original reMarkable and the reMarkable 2. So if you splurged on the original model years and years ago, you will continue to get software updates, and for the time being at least, you won't see a huge gap in software between one versus the other. I know it's a bit early for sweeping judgments, but even after just a week of testing, again, this non-final hardware, I can't help but really love it, just because the act of writing means so much to me, and this gives me a way to do it in a way that just feels more focused and honed. That said, there is a pretty significant flip side to that argument, and that is the fact that this is a $399 e-ink tablet that does a fraction of what other $399 tablets will do for you. You cannot play movies, you cannot play games, you cannot get on the web in any meaningful way. So at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, do you want to buy a thing that will solve one very specific problem in your life, or do you want to buy something that for the same amount of money will do a pretty good job at solving said problem and tackle a bunch of others as well? If you have any feedback about the reMarkable tablet, please let us know down in the comments or email me at v@engadget.com. We really appreciate the support, and we'll see you next time.